Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and today, in the first of our series where we go into workshops and we learn how to do different things, I wanted to cover a topic that has long been something I'm quite interested in, which is tuning. Because look, I'm a girl that loves to go fast and be at the absolute upper limit of every speed limit there is. And one of the big things around it is tuning. Now, a lot of the videos I've watched over the years, if I'm honest, I've been absolute rubbish. And then somebody recommended to me, in fact, it's one of my customers said, have you seen AC Dodd's videos? And I hadn't, and sorry, Adrian. And so essentially what I did was I tuned in and I saw these people and I thought, this guy obviously knows what he's doing, first and foremost. And second of all these people in these reaction videos are like those dream makeover videos where people are really extremely happy at the end. And I thought, is this a load of rubbish or is it actually worth doing? So anyway, from peer pressure from my colleagues, from the customers, we decided to host Adrian at ADO Restoration. Now, Adrian, tell us, how did you get into the world of tuning?
I've been doing this for a number of years now, but I basically started off when I was a teenager, and my dad used to do cars, Minis in particular, and my first car was a Mini, and of course it drove terribly. And I then started to think, well, you know, being a teenager, you want a car to go fast, or certainly faster than it did. And then, you know, you start tinkering, and then you start working under the bonnet and trying to find out what makes them go faster. And the real drive for me is I was an apprentice at the time, a mechanical engineer. So my issue was I didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't afford to go to, you know, expensive tuning companies and things like that. So I had to learn to do it myself. So that's where it started, and then from there I started tuning cars for my friends, and then I ended up working with ML Motorsport for about 20 years. I still work with them now, and you get better and better, and you learn things, and you come up with new processes, and before you know it, you're on YouTube and talking to you. So that's kind of how it worked.
Now, I must ask, a lot of people try and tune their own cars at home. What are the biggest mistakes do you think that people make?
The first mistake people make really is not understanding how the thing works. Okay, so a lot of people, certainly with SU carburetors, they think that tuning a carburetor is just turning the mixer screw. That's the biggest mistake people make. There's even so-called professionals out there that do that mistake as well, and they can actually end up causing themselves damage. So the first thing you really want to do is understand the requirements of the engine and how all the components work.
Now, I know there's going to be people out there that are rolling road diehard enthusiasts. Go on, tell me, is it better to do a static tune like this, or is it better to go to a rolling road?
That one's quite easy. If the rolling road operator knows what they're doing, it's better to go to a rolling road. Okay. Unfortunately, what happens is a lot of rolling road operators don't necessarily do the fueling requirements across the whole rev range and at all throttle openings, and that's where you end up with problems.
And if someone's watching this at home and they think they've got their tuning spot on, what are the key giveaways that maybe somebody could be getting more from their car, or doing little things? Like, what tips do you give to people at home that maybe can't afford to come and see you, or can't come and see us, or maybe they live quite far away? Because we've got people that watch from Australia, New Zealand. What tips do you give them in their home garage?
So in these cases, I encourage people to look at their spark plugs, see how the engine's burning. If you've got black spark plugs, it's too rich. If your spark plugs look good, then check your fuel consumption. If your fuel consumption's heavy, clearly there's issues, so there might be timing issues and things like that. A lot of this does come down to, though, reaching out for people who've got more experience to understand actually what to look for. So, you know, I do offer once a month, I do a YouTube live stream where people can come in and ask us questions, so we do our best. I obviously do the videos. I encourage people to watch my videos where you can see what I do in the tuning. So one of those in particular is when I do the Riviera run, and I actually do an hour demonstration to people there to show them what to do, how to do it, and then obviously you can see the benefits and obviously see the reactions with the owner of the vehicle as well.
Now, for those of you that watched my video about getting Nancy on the road, which I think came out last week, you'll know that Adrian and Paul at ADO Restoration, because Paul's just undergone the training with Isaac, tuned my car, and blimey, when I tell you that I've gone from 0 to 100, I am living the dream. People think Morris Minors are slow. I was overtaking everything on the way home, and I slightly terrified myself because I took a corner. I thought, I need to slow down because I'm going to be in a ditch otherwise with all the litter. Like, it was terrifying. And I think that's the thing, is that when I first started driving my Morris Minor, I had an 1175 in it, and I always used to feel like I was absolutely rapid. And I took a hill last night on the way home that I used to race up. I was very young, okay, so just let me off this little embarrassing story. I used to race up it on the way back to work, on my way back from lunch every day, because I'd always be running late, and I used to see how fast I could get up this hill, and I knew what my top speed was. And last night I beat it. Foot wasn't even to the floor, wasn't even breaking a sweat, car wasn't even at full capacity, and I thought, this is the absolute dream. However, one of the things you did, Adrian, and Paul did with you, was that you drilled holes in my air filter housing, and I was a little bit nervous about that, but then I thought, well, you know, at the end of the day, if somebody wants that, you could just go and buy another one, especially Morris Minors. As we know, they're 10 a penny auto jumbles. You can find one or get one on eBay. But for someone who's a little bit nervous about that and wants to know why you do that, why did you do that?
Of course, you have a choice. So, you know, if I say to you, we could drill the airbox to get some more air in, that's what it's all about. You don't have to have that done. But there are many benefits to having that done, and what the idea is to try and maximise the airflow through the engine to generate as much power as we possibly can. That's why we do it. And a lot of old cars, especially the classics, especially Minis, Morris Minors, and many others that you can name, have all got issues with airflow. Okay, and those standard airboxes restrict the performance of the engine. So back in the day, BMC Special Tuning produced documents, and part of the modifications, they would tell you to drill holes in the airbox. I'm not doing anything new, all right? So I'm providing a service and knowledge based on tried and tested processes that the factory would even recommend for people who want to hot up their own cars.
A silly question, if I may, for my viewers that are watching from hotter climates, places like Australia, New Zealand, does it benefit them as much? Does it benefit them more? How does that change with the climate?
In terms of tuning the car, it's a very good question, because there are a lot of people who live at altitude, for example. So having a car that runs at high altitude means that you can end up in a situation where the car runs rich. So if the car runs too rich, obviously it fails the spark plugs, you end up with a situation where you're damaging the engine because you're potentially bore washing. So people at high altitude need to have their cars tuned to run properly at those altitudes. Having an engine that runs hot, for example, in a hot climate, you can have situations where you know, the thing runs on, maybe a little bit of pinking if it's high compression and things like that. So it's very important to make sure that the environment that you're in, that the car is tuned to run properly within that.
You've touched upon wear to the engine there. In terms of tuning, what benefit does that bring for people that are maybe new to this or maybe new to the hobby? And I do get a lot of people tell me that they are new to the hobby. And so I don't think it's ever a waste spending time talking about some of the simple things and how they benefit. So really, one of the questions I think people might ask is in terms of value for money, what value for money does that bring in terms of the longevity of your engine by getting a car properly tuned?
That's a really good question, because what people don't really understand is the full benefit of a tune-up. So the most important thing about a tune-up is if the engine is not using too much fuel, the biggest benefit you get is the longevity increase of the engine, and that's due to the fact is you put too much fuel through it, it washes the oil off the cylinder bores, wears the pistons and rings out. If you have the engine tuned properly, you minimise the fuel through the engine. You also optimise the efficiency of the engine by making sure the engine burns off the fuel that you put in it and burns off all of the fuel that you put in it. When you do that, you generate the maximum performance out of that fuel, and you minimise the fuel consumption. So not only do you get a power increase, but your efficiency goes up. So you increase your miles per gallon. It's more efficient. So one of the things I have is an economy board. which I have for people who have been tuned by myself or my network of trained tuners. And, you can't get on the board unless you're doing over 50 to the gallon. And I've got people on there who've got late 50s, nearly 60 to the gallon. There's one on there with a Metro at 60 to the gallon. And there's a Mini which has got 63 to the gallon. And no, that isn't a special one. That's a Mark 1 850 in standard form.
So now I think that's remarkable, and I think one of the questions that I would have, and I'm gonna let Adrian talk us through how he tunes a car, is that there are a lot of myths out there around tuning. There's a lot of incorrect information, and we've talked about this before on YouTube. There's so much incorrect information out there. Is there anything that you hear time and time again, and you think, oh, if I could just banish that to Room 101, I would?
It comes back to what I said earlier. It's the screw turning. So people think that they can tune their car just simply by adjusting the mixture on the nut. Unfortunately, that's a fallacy. The mixture on the SU, the mixture nut controls the idle fueling only, and the rest of the fueling across the driving range is controlled by the spring in the carburetor, the needle in the carburetor, and obviously the oil and the damper that's fitted.
Can you walk us through some real basics so that people can get something better out of their cars at home in today's video, please?
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is give you hopefully 5 minutes of support to help you work through tuning your car at home. So the way I always start, especially when I'm training people, is we start with the ignition coil, because the most important thing about the engine is you cannot tune an engine unless you've got the appropriate ignition system. So what I mean by that is you need to understand what type of ignition's fitted. In this particular case, we've got a 65D electronic ignition. The requirements there mean that we need a high power coil, 0.8 ohm, to get a nice big spark. We obviously then need to go through and check to make sure we got the correct HT lead resistances. In this case, we fitted a new set of power spark leads, which I thoroughly recommend because we get the right resistance on the leads. And in this case, that's typically around 1.5 to 2k per lead. Spark plugs, they need to be the right heat range, and most importantly, and something that people still get wrong now, is the appropriate spark plug gap for the application. In this particular case, with a high power coil 0.8 ohm, you want to run 35 thou. If you're running a 1.5 ohm coil on a ballast system, for example, you need to be running 25 thou plug gaps. And if you're running a 3 ohm based system with no ballast resistor and points, then you want to be using 25 thou. Moving on, clearly we need to make sure the ignition timing is correct. So distributor wise, that's done in 2 phases. We've got the centrifugal advance system in the bottom of the distributor, and we've got the vacuum system on the distributor as well. Both of those need to be functional and they need to be calibrated correctly. So that means the ignition advance curve needs to be correct in the distributor for the engine that you're actually using. Don't assume that if you're using a factory specification engine that the specification of the advance curve in the distributor supplied by the factory is right for that application. So performance gains can be had by making sure that you're optimizing that ignition advance curve for the engine. Making sure the advance, static advance is dialed in properly to take full account of the built-in mechanical advance in the distributor, and obviously therefore making sure that the vacuum system is working and adding the extra vacuum advance that you need at part throttle to make these engines responsive and run efficiently. So moving on, obviously if we're talking about ignition wise, it goes without saying that the engine itself must be in good mechanical condition. So if you've got valve problems, not sealing, you've got a blown head gasket, you've got air leaks on the manifolds and things like that, that is all going to detract from a perfectly running engine. So those need to be all fixed, valve clearances done, etc., before you can actually complete the tuning. And in this particular case, we've moved on to the carburetor. You can see here that the airbox has been drilled. We've done this purely because in this particular application, the engine itself is able to breathe a lot more air than that standard airbox is able to transmit into the carburetor and into the engine. So we drilled that to allow that to happen. The carburetor itself has been re-needled and the needle itself has been modified. We've replaced the spring and we've tuned the damper in there to get the best out of the engine. When you bring that lot together, the engine will perform as you would expect nice and powerfully, very efficiently, and more like what Steph has experienced in her Morris Minor, which is efficient, smooth, quiet, and exciting. So, in order to do this, you might be wondering what tools you need. Okay, so the very basics consist of, you need a decent timing light. So the one I recommend is the Innova 5568. You need a dwell meter, so you can actually see what type of ignition you've got fitted if you don't know, or if you've got points ignition, you can set those points accurately. It's no good using feeler blades for setting points. You actually need to use a proper dwell meter so you can get the proper core charge time. And the other thing that I urge people to do nowadays is to either have a wideband gauge fitted in the vehicle, or have a port on the exhaust pipe that you can fit that wideband gauge for the purposes of tuning and then remove it afterwards. Okay, that will enable you to understand what's going on in the engine and how it's fueling, and therefore you can see if it needs any adjustments, and you can see if you need somebody like me or my trained tuner network to be able to do that for you, or indeed you can even have a go yourself. Okay, so with all that being said, if you find yourself in a situation where you've got some tools and you think, okay, maybe you find yourself in a situation where you've got all the gear and maybe you haven't quite got all the ideas, then what you'll need to do is to maybe look up some videos. Now, I have a few videos online that you can look at, one of which is the tuning demonstration at the Riviera run. They're usually about an hour long over 4 parts, but it gives you a run through of a typical vehicle. Okay, there's a number of these I've done over the years, I should say, and what that enables you to do is understand all the facets of those particular cars I work through, and you can see the particular problems. The point I'm trying to say is these cars don't maintain themselves. They only run as good as the maintenance you provide. So if you need to learn things, I started when I was a teenager. I knew nothing, and I fiddled and I turned screws and I did all the wrong things. It's not bad doing wrong things. What's the worst thing to do is not try and learn by looking up the information. It's out there. I can help you as much as I can with the videos and that I provide, but at the end of the day, you need to understand that these cars won't run well or run nicely unless they are set up properly. And my final tip is, really, if you're going to go out and have an attempt to work on your own car and do a tune-up, give yourself plenty of time. Don't rush. Don't be afraid that if you need to replace anything, you will need to spend some money to get these things right. But at the end of the day, allow yourself plenty of time, like a weekend, to get stuck in and have a go. And that's the important thing.
Just before we head off, I want to say a massive thank you to Adrian. So that's AC Dodd. So that's Alpha, Charlie, D for dog, I don't know anymore. D for Delta, O for Oscar, D for Delta, and D for Delta once again. So that's AC Dodd. There is a link in the description for this video, but I just want to say a massive thank you because Adrian has travelled hours and hours to be here with us at ADO Restoration. He's given some of his time before driving hours home to do this video with us and to give us some tips for you at home, completely free of charge, to get the best out of your car. Adrian, have you got any last words you'd like to say for everyone at home?
The most important thing is go out there and use your cars and enjoy them, because if you don't go out there and use your cars, you won't be using the spares won't be in production, and then it will be a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult for us all to enjoy our hobbies.
That is some jolly good advice, and the best advice we've ever had from a guest on iDriver Classic. Wherever you are in the world, I just want to say thank you very much for watching this new format of videos, and get out there, tune your cars, take care and drive safely.